today we are going to look at understanding the nature of your nature. No? And so, understanding the nature of your nature means to understand the nature of your conditioned nature. All right? Everything that I'm going to speak to you today about understanding the nature of your nature is based on Bhagavad Gita. No? It deals with what is called the three modes of material nature. Maybe you are familiar with this. It's such an important subject matter that it appears a whole chapter is dedicated to it in the Bhagavad Gita. No? Does anybody know what chapter this appears in the Bhagavad Gita? 11? Close? Close? 14. Chapter 14 deals with the modes of material nature. So important is it that Krishna dedicated a whole chapter to it. No? And so fundamentally, if you understand this, you'll understand your psychosocial makeup. No? Means you'll understand how various energies within the universe and within yourself affects the way you think, speak, eat, sleep, wake up, the person you get married to, the job you choose, the music you listen to, the friends you keep, everything about you. No? So this is what we're going to look at today. So I'd like to begin today's class with a story, right? And I think all good stories start with once upon a time. No? So once upon a time there was a man. He was a very miserable, very pessimistic man. He was a workaholic type of man. He was the type of man that was the rain on everybody's parade. He was the type of person that is the salt in the sweet rice. A very bitter person. No? Maybe we know somebody like this. No? Maybe we are somebody like this also. No? This is the type of personality this gentleman had, right? Now I want you to remember this as we go into the next slide, right? Very bitter person. What do you see? You have to shout at me. Half empty, half full. No? Half empty, half full. Then which one is half full and which one is half empty? This is half full and that's half empty? No? Both are half full? You say both are half full? And you say both half empty? Okay. You say both are half full. Okay. So, very interesting is we use this as a psychological test to understand people's psychosocial makeup. No? No judgment, right? Both are identical levels of water, no? According to your consciousness, according to your conditioning, an optimist, how will an optimist look at these two identical pictures? Do you all know what an optimist is? Somebody who's very positive, no? You can say? Both are half full, no? And so the gentleman in discussion that we're speaking about, the workaholic, pessimistic, miserable, bitter person, he's more both are half empty kind of guy, you know. So I need for you to remember this analogy of the glass being half empty or half full. But as optimists, we're going to remember it as the analogy with the glass being half full, you know? Because we're going to come back to this analogy in about 10 minutes, right? So, going back to our story, right? We're speaking about the gentleman who's a workaholic and a miserable person, right? The rain on everybody's parade, right? So in the morning, he's getting ready to go to work, right? He has to drive 1 hour to go to work, and as usual, he's in a very miserable mood, right? And that day, he's got two daughters. They both in high school, and that day, the youngest daughter got extremely ill. She was very sick, and she was throwing up very badly, right? She was vomiting. And so the man's wife tells him, please take your daughter to the doctor, And so he shouts at her, don't you know what a big board meeting I have today? It's one of the most important days of work today. I can't do it. Can't you just take her, And so then he storms out the house, leaving his wife in almost tears and his daughter terribly sick for his wife to just take care of, And so he drives to work. It takes him an hour to get to work. When he gets to work, he has quite a high position in the organization. So he's very high up the echelons of the corporate ladder. And when he walks into the boardroom, before he enters, he tells the secretary, I'm not accepting any phone calls. If anybody phones, tell them I'm very busy. We're having a very important board meeting. I'll speak to them later. And so this happened in the 1980s, so there was no cell phones, right? So he goes into the boardroom, right? And so meeting commences, and as he's halfway through the meeting, the hospital phones his workplace. Speaks to the secretary. The secretary tells him, I have been strictly authorized not to give any messages to this gentleman, So I'm sorry, I can only take down a message, So fine, they hang up. The hospital calls a second time and says it's an emergency, And again, because of the type of nature of this person, she was afraid to go in and give the message, So again, she takes the message down. 4 hours later, this gentleman, he comes out of his board meeting. And so naturally, he asks the secretary, was there any messages for me? And she says, yes, there's two. The hospital phoned the first time. They said that your daughter is very sick. Please contact them. And then they phoned the second time, and they said it's an emergency. Phone immediately. So that's what he does when he comes out of the meeting. 4 hours later, he calls the hospital. So he calls the hospital, and he gives the daughter's name and all of that. And so this is what they inform him, that, my dear sir, we regret to inform you that your daughter has passed away. That your daughter has died. Right? And so you can imagine how distraught he was. So he gets into his car and he has to drive 1 hour to go home. Now, can you imagine his state of mind as he was driving to go home? So an hour passes and he drives into the driveway, right? And opens the door, and as he opens his car door, somebody opens the front door of his home. And who comes out the front door? Is his daughter. The daughter that the hospital said had died. What had happened was, the daughter went to the hospital, gave her whatever medication was required, and she wasn't that ill. And the hospital sent her back home. And they mixed the charts up in the hospital, that he got the news of somebody else. And so when he saw his daughter come out the door, was he happy? Was he happy? No, he was not happy. He was not happy. What he felt was not happiness. What he felt was a cessation of pain. What he felt was this. He didn't feel happy. He just stopped feeling that suffering and anxiety and pain that he was feeling. It wasn't a positive happiness, because happiness in this world is the space between two pains. It's fleeting. It's not real happiness. It's shadow happiness. And so initially he was not feeling good. But after he saw his daughter, he just didn't feel bad anymore. No? And so in this life, we think that whenever we're not feeling suffering, that this is happiness. But that's not real happiness. That's not a positive happiness. No? And you see what happened is, after a few days go by, then that feeling of seeing his daughter, it evaporated. And again, he went back to being a bitter person. He went back to being the salt in everybody's sweet rice, the rain in everybody's parade, and on his own parade. No? So this is the happiness we feel in this life. No? That materialistic happiness is like this. It's like, I take you, right? I fill up a bucket of water, and I put your head in the water, no? And I hold your head down for about 30 seconds, right? And then I pull you back out of the water, all right? And then again, I put your head into the bucket. I hold you underwater until you start squirming. This time I hold you down for 1 minute, and then I pull you up. No? And then imagine I'm doing that to you now. And then next time I put you in for 1 minute 30 seconds, no? And then I pull you out. No? And then I ask you, did you enjoy that? What would you say? You didn't enjoy that? You didn't like that? But then if I say, but when I pulled you out, you really enjoyed that. No? When I took your head out of the bucket, that was nice, wasn't it? Do you think that was nice? It was better than when your head was in the bucket, but is that a positive happiness? It's not a positive happiness. It's just an absence of pain. And today, in this life, whenever we're not feeling pain, we think that that is happiness. That is not happiness. That's a cessation of suffering. It's not happiness. But today, we think whenever I'm not feeling pain, this means I'm happy. That's not happiness. And today, this is what we're going to look at. We're going to look at 4 types of happiness. All based on the 3 modes of material nature, which are ubiquitous forces or energies. No? Ubiquitous means all-pervading. All-pervading. It's everywhere. It means you can't get away from it. No? It's like when you do something wrong when you're a kid, and your mother finds out, and then she comes with you with a rolling pin, you know? You can't get away from that, you know? So like this, these forces, for as long as you're in the material world, you can't escape them, you know? Mostly. Because you can escape them. There's a method. There's a science to it, you know? But if you don't know the science, then you're going to think whenever you're not suffering, you're happy, you know? We'll see how they influence every aspect of our lives. You know? Every aspect of your life. We'll also look at how to get out of this. And we'll look at happiness that makes you sad. Happiness that starts off as pleasure but ends off in pain. And happiness that is relatively tranquil and stable. That it lasts for a longer period of time, but it's relative. That it has a beginning, stays for some time, but then comes to an end. It's relative. No? And then we'll look at absolute happiness. There is no end and beginning to it. And we'll analyze this looking at the 3 modes of material nature based on the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Right? So these are the 3 modes of material nature. You may know them as Tamagun, Rajagun, and Sattvagun. Right? So 3 modes of material nature. Prakriti means nature, right? Material nature, right? Let's look at guna. So what does guna mean? Guna literally means, the Sanskrit literal translation of guna means rope. rope, right? So the gunas are the ropes that tie us to this world, that tie us to material nature, that tie us to prakriti. So these three gunas, tamagun, rajagun, and sattvagun, act as agents that bind us within this world. And prakriti means material nature, but it also means your psychosocial makeup, means that which makes you function, that which makes you tick, that which makes you come here tonight as opposed to casino pride, right? It's because of your conditioned nature. And so tamagun, or mode, tamagun means? Tamagun? Ignorance. Tamagun is ignorance associated with anger. Yes? Tamagun is ignorance, right? Rajagun, passion, yeah? Associated with pride also, passion, right? And finally, sattvagun, goodness, simple, yes. I would say happy, tranquil, blissful is something else. And so this is what we'll look at today, is that the three modes of material nature, tamagun, rajagun, sattvagun, goodness, passion, and ignorance, and how they mix to affect us in our daily lives, and how understanding this will understand how we interact with the world and how the world interacts with us. So these are the primary colors by which human beings see the world, right? So how many primary colors are there? There's three primary colors, right? And so it's said that human vision is trichromatic. Trichromatic. Fundamentally, three primary colors mixed together to give us the smorgasbord of amalgamation of so many colors, but fundamentally it's three primary colors that mix together, and this is how we perceive color within our material reality. And so the three primary colors are yellow, red, and blue, which mix together and allows us to see a variety of colors. Like you can see them mixing here, and it's giving you like magenta, giving you so many other colors there. And so this is how the three modes of material nature work, is that no one is only in the mode of passion. No one is only in the mode of ignorance. No one is only in the mode of goodness. It's a mix of these three modes that mix, that come together, and according to that mixture, this is how you perceive the world. So say somebody is more in the mode of goodness, they'll look through that color scheme, so to speak, using this as an analogy of color. They'll look at that color scheme of the world. And so generally, people that are more in the mode of goodness will come to a spiritual discourse like this. So today, you're more in the mode of goodness. Or when you made the decision to come here, more in the mode of goodness. Or maybe you were forced to come here by somebody. That's something else. But it's good you're here. That's wonderful. And so the way these modes mix defines the way you'll interact with the world. It'll define the friends that you keep, because like will attract like, and light attracts light. And so like that, according to your psychosocial makeup based on the modes, you'll get to see that those sort of people that you will attract. So if you'd like an insight into your mind, look at who your best friend is. Not those people that you're forced to spend time with, but those people that you go out of your way to spend time with. If you look at their nature, if you look at their psychosocial makeup, it's a hint into your own psychology. This is very interesting. So I'll give an example of each of these. there is hierarchy in terms of the three modes of material nature, right? Which is the lowest mode? Tamagun, no? Ignorance, darkness. Which is the second best? Rajagun, no? And which is, well, obviously, by process of elimination, mode of goodness, sattva, is the best of the three, no? But we don't throw any of the modes away because we can use all of them. They all have their place in society, no? But let's look at first Tamagun, then we'll look at Rajagun, and then we will look at Sattvagun. No? Sattva means goodness, goodness, right? And remember, please don't forget the analogy of the half full, half empty cup. No? Okay. Tamagun, the mode of ignorance, right? Characterized by inertia, laziness, dullness, ignorance, where you covered over. No? So I'll give you an example of this. No? When you wake up in the morning, when you just open your eyes in the morning, how do you feel? Dullness, right? A little bit dullness. You can't really think properly. You can't truly function, no? Like, I set my alarm for 4:30 this morning, and when it rang, I hit the snooze button, no? Now, if I was in the mode of goodness, I would wake up very nicely, put the alarm one side, and then take a bath, no? But mode of ignorance was strong, no? So when you wake up, this is how you feel, no? It's when you wake up, you don't have clarity of vision. It's depressing. It's dull. There's laziness and inertia. You don't really. You just stumble about. You know, like toddle into the bathroom. You know, and that is Tamagun. This is what Tamagun is. No, now, is Tamagun important? How is Tamagun important, sir? Exactly, right? Because see, without taking rest, without taking sleep, which is Tamagun, no, you will go crazy. If you don't sleep within 3 days, psychologically, it's a form of torture. You will go crazy, no? So we don't throw Tamagun out, but we try to minimize it, no? So how much sleep does the human body need? Ayurveda says 6 to 8 hours. No. Now, if you're taking more than 8 hours of sleep, if you're not sick, that means, then this is imbibing too much of Tamagun within your life. No, and that may be dangerous. So that's one aspect of Tamagun. We'll look at different aspects of Tamagun as we go through this presentation. No, because it's everywhere, and we look at food. We look at the things we put into our bodies, the activities that we perform, but we try to limit Tamagun as far as possible, no? And so next we'll look at, coming back to the cup is half full example, right? Let's briefly discuss the three modes, and then once we have a brief overview, I'm going to ask, so you can think about this question now, I'm going to ask, based on the three modes, right? Tamagun, Rajagun, and Sattvagun, how the different people in these modes look at that glass of water. No? Okay, understand the question? Okay? Okay. So next, Rajagun, no? Associated with intense activity, movement, energy. It's like this. When Rajagun goes out of control, it's like you have a match and you throw petrol onto the match. What happens? Fire? Like gentle, very nice, slow burning fire. Blazing, no? Explosion, catalyst, no? Cataclysmic, no? So Rajagun is like that, no? It pulls you here and there and you can't focus. Like you close your eyes, you're having 100 thoughts, no? And See, without Raja, can you get anything done? No, it's very difficult. But you can't let it overwhelm and control you, right? Then it becomes dangerous. And when Rajagun becomes uncontrolled, what happens? Two things happen, according to Bhagavad Gita. One is illusion happens, and two is anger happens. It's like this. Illusion in the sense that when you have too much, and Raja is insatiable, you just want to have more and more and more. You become greedy, right? And the more you put, think of adding fuel to the fire, the more you put, the more it wants, no? And greed and lust goes out of control, and it leads to insanity. You fall into illusion, right? And a similar thing happens when you don't get what you want, but you really desire it, you know? Like, you have to have the new iPhone, no? And if you don't get it, you start breaking things, and that leads to anger. And an angry person can do anything, no? And then again, that leads to suffering, no? And so when Raja goes unchecked, when it's not balanced, it always pulls you down. It always causes pain, and it will take you to Tama. No? It'll take you to ignorance, delusion, darkness, depression, right? And finally, we have Sattva, right? And so of the three, which is the best? Sattva is the best, right? But even if you're fully in Sattva, if you have to interact with the world and work a 9 to 5, you'll get fired. Because if you start work at 9 and you come there at like 12 o'clock, because you're calm and cool and sedate and just chilled, there's a term in Goa, I think it's Shushagat? Shushagat? Now is Shushagat Sattva, Rajas or Tamas? That's the thing, it's so subtle, no? Because if you look at a yogi, right, he's balanced, he's calm, he's serene, his eyes are closed, and he's in deep meditation, he's in almost samadhi. And you look at a drunk who's passed out on the pavement, whose eyes are closed, and is in deep meditation. Externally, if you don't know, it looks the same, no? So in one sense, two individuals, one may be in Sattva and the other one may be in Tamas, no? It's a little difficult to tell sometimes, no? Like, I'll give you an example. In nature, animals also have different psychosocial makeups, have different gunas, no? Like a cow. What of the modes, where's the cow? Sattva gun, no? Interesting thing, in the cow's next life, what birth does a cow get? Brahmana. Brahmana. Cow's next birth is a Brahmana. No? A lion. Of the three modes? Rajas. Represents the Kshatriya, the monarch. No? The next life, the lion? King. No? Warrior, Kshatriya. No? And so Tamas, represented by which animal? Actually, monkey. Monkey. No? And so in its next life, Shudra birth. No? And so like that, if you look at Sattva and Tama, a cow is in Sattva, no? A buffalo? Tamas. Tamas, no? And you can tell easily is that you drink the cow's milk and you see how you feel, and you drink buffalo milk and you see how you feel, no? So externally, they're walking and eating grass, but two different levels of consciousness, no? So Sattva and Tama can be a little tricky also, no? But you can see by the symptoms, no? Peace, clarity, light, openness, intelligence, no? Not covered over, not dull, no? Different from an intoxicated person, no? So when you think of Tamas, the classic example is somebody who is very intoxicated on something, no? It can be anger, it can be alcohol, it can be so many things there, you know, that you can be intoxicated on. You can even be intoxicated and addicted to your cell phone, no? It's an addiction, it's dangerous, no? Which is why we need balance, no? And so coming back to our question, how would somebody in Tama see the glass? Half empty? I think the person in Tama, he doesn't even see the glass. Because he's covered or she's covered over, no? He or she, no? The person in Rajas, how will that person see the glass? Half empty, no? Half empty. But that person will be trying hard to fill that glass, no? Trying very hard. And Sattva? Half full, no? And also, whether it remains half full or remains a half empty is okay also, no? Whatever, no? How can you tell if you're a Vaishya or not? Now, Vaishya is a mercantile. Vaishya means a businessman. If you're a Vaishya, then you have money shakti. You know how to make money, no? And it's not something that's taught. People that go to the Harvard School of Business, no? And they study how to be a Vaishya, no? And generally, when they go into the corporate world, where do they go into? They go into middle management. And all their life, they will stay there, no? Look at Steve Jobs, high school dropout, no? Bill Gates, university dropout. Henry Ford didn't study anything, no? Donald Trump, you know, I hate to say this, but he's a Vaishya, no? He knows how to make money, no? And so, it can't really be taught so much. The person that goes to the Harvard Business School and then goes into a company, if he owns 51% of the shares of the company, he's a Shudra. No? And now when people think Shudra, they think that somebody that is dull or less intelligent. No, a Shudra is a brilliant person. No? There's actually very few Shudras in this world. All of us are less than Shudra. Malekshas, Yavanas, like that. No? Shudra is very elevated consciousness, actually. Shudra is to be in the Vedic paradigm. No? So, so like that, Vaishya very much in passion, no? Wanting to acquire things. No? And a Brahmana, if you give a Brahmana 100 rupees and you come back in a week, what will happen? See, it may be less, it may be that much, it may be more. If money comes, it comes. Bindas. If money goes, it goes, whatever, you know. Because his real wealth, or her real wealth, is not money. It's knowledge. No? Spiritual knowledge, more especially, you know. So a Brahmana is equipoise, no? And a Brahmana is not by birth, it's by consciousness. No? So that's interesting, no? How these modes affect us all the time, no? All the time it's affecting us. And so, this is from chapter 3 in Bhagavad Gita as it is, verse 5. Again, I highly recommend you reading this book. Bhagavad Gita is the greatest self-help book I've ever read. You know? If you read Bhagavad Gita, you'll understand your psychosocial makeup, you'll understand the psychosocial makeup of the material environment, and you'll understand what no other book teaches, the psychosocial makeup of God, which in itself is amazing. So, Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 3, verse 5. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature, which is basically Rajagun, Sattvagun, and Tamagun. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Because sometimes you find that you know something, it's a bad activity to do, no? You shouldn't do it. Like, before I joined the temple, I had a major problem with swearing, no? I had a swear jar, and every time I would say bad words, I would put I'm from South Africa, the currency we use is rands. I would put 5 rand into it, no? And after 1 month, I had 1,000 rand, no? And I couldn't help it, you know? I was just conditioned to swear. And then 1 month later, I joined the temple, and I started reading Bhagavad Gita, starting associating with spiritualists, and I started chanting the Maha Mantra. And within a month, 1,000 rand went to 5 rand. And the next month, it went to 0, no? And so previously, I was forced to act, pulled by the mode of passion and by tamagun, no? And through a scientific process of the science of self-realization, which is what Bhagavad Gita is teaching, which is what we're learning today. I was able to, with the grace of God and His representatives, pull myself or try to pull myself, and still I'm pulling myself out of the lower nature and the lower modes. You know? So the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita helps us to liberate ourselves from fundamentally being pulled by this material nature, forced to do things, even we know it's bad and we don't want to do it, but we can't help it, you know, because we're like a puppet on the string that's dancing by these three modes. You know? And so fundamentally, this is what we're going to try to look at today: how to get out of this suffering and experience real happiness. You know? And to cut these ropes, these gunas that bind us, you know, and force us to do things even against our will. You know? And fundamentally, Arjuna is having the same crisis. You know? That he's asking Krishna, Krishna, how can I stop engaging in these activities that are bringing me down in consciousness, in nature? It's like I'm forced to act. I can't help it. I can't control it. And this is fundamentally one of the reasons why Krishna is not speaking Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is sung. You know? It's the world's longest poetry. You know? It's in the Guinness Book of World Records. You know? It's longer than the Iliad. It's longer than Dante's Descent into Hell, you know? Which is some of the best poetry that the West has. But the Song of God eclipses everything. You know? It's such a beautiful read. You know? And so like that, this is what Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita. And so to understand this, is one, let's start from the bottom of the hierarchy. We'll start with Tama. Tama means? Ignorance. Yes. This is from a Chinese philosopher, Confucius, very, very famous person. And so the question is that I ask you is, in Tamagun, in ignorance, can you experience happiness? Who says yes, you can experience happiness in Tamagun? You can experience happiness in Tamagun. Sure. Okay, if you feel that way, please raise your hand. You experience happiness. Even if it's fleeting a little bit, you experience some happiness in Tamagun. Okay. Who says no, you don't experience any happiness in Tamagun? Okay. Okay. Who's not saying anything? That's okay also. That's perfectly fine. No, that's okay. And so this is the happiness you feel in Tamagun. It's happiness that makes you sad. No? That means that happiness is there, but for lack of a better word, it's a perverted happiness. It's a reflection of happiness. No? It's like this, no? Like sometimes maybe you feel this, that when you're about to go to sleep, do you get that sense of that joy or subtle pleasure that I'm going to sleep now, you know? You get some happiness, no? That's happiness, no? But what are you going to do? You're going to pass out and become semi-conscious, no? But it's happiness, no? I'll give you another example, no? This happiness is associated with inflicting pain either on yourself or others, no? Now when you're going to sleep, that's a healthy manifestation of Tamagun. That's needed and it's required, no? Now I'll give you unhealthy examples of Tamagun. Or maybe you can give me an unhealthy example of the way sometimes Tamagun manifests. A drunk, absolutely, no? So when a drunk is drinking, no? Or anybody is drinking alcohol, intoxication, they're feeling happy, no? Yeah? But that happiness is actually suffering, no? Because after a few drinks, they don't even know what they're doing. It's illusion, no? You can do anything when you're drunk, no? So it causes damage to the body while you're drinking. You can get arrested for drunk driving. You can kill somebody while intoxicated, get into bar fights. If you drink too much, then you do parikram, right? You do parikram when you're drunk, right? Means you'll start vomiting around, you go into the toilet, no? And you have to spend time doing parikram in the toilet, no? Because you'll be throwing up in the toilet, no? You'll be hugging the porcelain god, no? Because when your head is in the toilet and you're throwing up because of too much intoxication, then you make all sorts of promises to the Lord. No, my dear Lord, please make my head stop spinning, and I will never, ever, ever drink again. No, and so, but that's happiness you feel. No, a perverted form of happiness. No, somebody who is smoking a cigarette. No? Now, I'm saying these things not to judge anybody. I'm saying these things because this is what tamagun represents. No? It's just, it is what it is. You know, it's simple truths. No? And so somebody that is smoking. And what is smoking? It is taking fire into your lungs, and society says taking fire into your lungs is cool. All right? So that's what smoking is. You're taking pathogens within yourself, you're taking cancer cells within yourself. And when you do this, there's some pleasure in it that you derive, but a very low consciousness pleasure. Because you're hurting yourself. And that hurting yourself and hurting others is bringing you some sense of happiness. But this happiness is making you sad. It's making you sad currently, and it'll lead to more sadness down the road. You'll get cancer, no? You'll get so many eczema, you'll get lung disease, so many things are there. No? So this happiness is making you sad. I'll give an example of more on a subtle level. No? A sadomasochist. What is a sadomasochist? Someone who derives pleasure from pain. Someone who derives pleasure from either inflicting pain onto themselves, like maybe cutting themselves, or inflicting pain onto somebody else. No? And by putting people down, they raise themselves up. No? So this is happiness in tamagun. That it's not uplifting to yourself, and it's causing pain for you, and it's causing pain to somebody else. No? So whenever you do this, it's not good. No? It's tamasic. No? And so we gave the example already of sleep when you wake up in the morning. No? That's tamagun. No? And so the opposite of tamagun is sattvagun. No? And so after you take bath in the morning, so two things I'm just speculating, hypothesizing, theorizing is one, you're waking up in the morning. So after you wake up in the morning, you take bath, right? That's the second thing I'm hypothesizing, no? Because I've noticed a strange phenomena taking place, that we give classes in bits now, and that students are waking up at the crack of noon, all right? And when I was a student, I have to raise my hand for this, I was guilty of that also. Sometimes I would wake up at 2 p.m., right? Because I was going to bed at 6 a.m., no? And which is not a good thing to do. No? You need balance in your life. I'm not advocating that. So they're waking up at the crack of noon. Again, I'm not judging students or anybody waking up at the crack of noon. I've been there. And the second thing is that cleanliness also has gone out the window. And so we're going to lectures. One of my students is a PhD student, and one of his jobs or role in BITS is to teach other students. So he teaches about 100 students daily. And he's saying that some of them are not brushing their teeth for 4 days in a row. And he's saying that sometimes he feels like wearing his motorbike helmet and putting the guard on because the breath is so bad that he's getting a headache. So he's enforced the 1 meter rule, that he brings a 1 meter stick to class and he has it between them and he explains what he has to do with the stick between them. No? Because see, this is tamagun. And in tamagun, it's difficult to imbibe knowledge. No? So these intelligent students are immersing themselves in ignorance, and they're trying to engage in Brahmanical activity, which is studying whatever it is, but it's studying. You know? And so it becomes very difficult. You know? And so like that, when you wake up in the morning and take bath, how do you feel after that? Fresh. What else? You feel like doing work, you know? You feel alive, rejuvenated. How do you feel? Energetic, no? Suddenly you have clarity of vision, no? You can see properly. You can think clearly. And what is that? That is sattva. Now imagine feeling that throughout the day, huh? Which is what we can achieve, no? Not only can we achieve that, but sattva gun is the springboard by which you know the springboard is, right? You jump on it and it lifts you up. No? It's the springboard by which we jump on to transcend the three modes, to get out of the three modes. And we'll look at that again. No? Just one last thing on ignorance is that revenge also is a subtle form of ignorance manifesting. Revenge is like stabbing yourself in the heart. You heard of the saying? Ignorance is bliss? Who agrees with this? Ignorance is bliss. Bliss. This is my take on that, right? I say bliss is bliss. Ignorance is illusion. Ignorance is suffering, right? A lot of the time we commit so much of, let's say, sin, not because we're sinful people, but because we don't know, you know? And out of ignorance, because you don't have illumination of knowledge, we do abominable things, no? We do very hurtful things to ourselves and others, no? So bliss is bliss. Bliss comes from sattvagun. Bliss comes from knowledge, no? Ignorance is an illusion. Ignorance comes from darkness. Ignorance is not bliss. It manifests like bliss, but that happiness is pain. That happiness is an illusion. That happiness is in the lower consciousness, no? That happiness represents all these painful happiness experiences that we are speaking about. And so they say an eye for an eye, right? But somebody in goodness doesn't think like that, no? An eye for an eye and the world goes blind. But the quality of the humble and the meek is to turn the other cheek, no? And this is goodness. It's to be tolerant and compassionate and kind, and equipoised and balanced in your thinking, no? And so revenge is also a symptom of suffering and ignorance, no? And an unhealthy manifestation of ignorance at that, okay? Because ignorant activity is, any activity that you perform becomes addictive, no? And the more you perform it, the more addictive it becomes. And that's one of the reasons why smoking so hard to give up, no? I mean, Mark Twain, he's a genius, no? But still, a material genius who hasn't elevated internally his internal intelligence. He's suffering with the modes, no? And this is a lower mode that he's suffering from, no? And so we'll look at another genius. Just one point on addiction is that it's like dancing with the devil. Addiction is like dancing with the devil, no? When you dance with the devil, you don't stop dancing when the music stops. You stop dancing when the devil stops dancing. Or you stop dancing when he gets tired. And he never gets tired. And this is the nature of addiction, is that it's a vicious cycle that makes you dance even when you're tired of dancing, no? But we'll look at how we break this vicious cycle, no? Albert Einstein, no? A genius, right? Also a spiritualist, no? He said that the more I studied the material universe, the more I believe in God. Because he could see the rhyme and reason and the rationale and the way everything is structured, how laws in the universe work perfectly. And because there's a law, there must be a lawmaker, no? And a genius, but a genius in the mode of goodness, no? And so one of the problems, this is the last thing we're going to say about ignorance, no? One of the problems about ignorance is that it leads to daydreaming, no? It leads to fantasizing about the future or the past, but in a very unhealthy way. It's like this, right? Say, you like cricket? Do you like cricket? Yes. I like cricket also. So it's James, right? Yeah. James. So James, you like cricket, right? You want to be the next MSD, right? The next Mahendra Singh Dhoni, right? And so, because you want to be the next Mahendra Singh Dhoni and your dream is to become a cricketer, you decide that you'll sit down on the couch every day and you'll watch the IPL because this is your dream, and by sitting on the couch and watching the IPL, this is how you plan on becoming the next Mahendra Singh Dhoni and the next captain of India. Now, is this a good or bad idea in terms of becoming the next captain of India? It's a terrible idea, no? And so that's an example of daydreaming in the mode of ignorance, no? It's not that we shouldn't have plans and goals for the future, no? But the thing is that if you don't act on your plan in a healthy, holistic, and realistic way, then it will remain always a dream. And for one in the mode of ignorance, that dream becomes a nightmare. Because it's just inertia and laziness, you know? It becomes a daydream, you know, a nightmare. So that's another symptom of ignorance. You know?